This is you. You just ordered the complete extermination of an entire city, 7 million people. Men, women, children, pets, everything that breathes gets the blade. The Khwarezmian Empire thought they could disrespect you by killing your trade envoys. Big mistake. You don't negotiate. You don't forgive. You demonstrate. And right now, you're teaching the world a very expensive lesson. The cost of insulting Genghis Khan is genocide. But to understand how a nobody from the frozen steppes became the most successful serial killer in human history, we need to rewind. Back to when you weren't a Khan. Back when you were just Temujin, a kid whose biggest dream was simply not starving to death. ACT-1, born into hell, 03 Min, you're born in 1162 on the Mongolian steppes, a frozen wasteland where the only things that grow are resentment and body counts. Your dad, Yasuje, is a minor chieftain, basically middle management in the tribal warfare business. You're not rich, but you're not dirt poor. Either you've got a roof made of animal skins and enough mutton to keep your ribs from showing. For a Mongol kid, that's practically living the dream. Your old man isn't around much. He's too busy playing the political game, forming alliances, settling blood feuds, and occasionally poisoning rival chiefs at dinner parties. It's just how business works out here. Diplomacy is for people who can afford to lose. Your people prefer the make them an offer they can't refuse by holding a knife to their throat approach. When you're 9 years old, Dad arranges your future. He rides you across the steppes to the Alkanut tribe to pick out your future wife. It's not romantic, it's a corporate merger. Two struggling families combining assets to avoid bankruptcy. You meet Bert. She's unimpressed. You're unimpressed. But nobody cares what you think because you're just the collateral in a business deal between your fathers. On the ride home, your father stops to share a meal with the Tatars. Tribe that's been his mortal enemy since before you were born. You being 9 and stupid, think this is a peace summit. It's not. It's an assassination. They poison his drink. Your dad realizes it halfway through the meal, but it's too late. The damage is done. He makes it home, but the poison is already eating him from the inside. 3 days later, he's dead, and that's when your life goes from tough to game over. See, in the Mongol social structure, a chieftain's family without a chieftain is like a corporation without a CEO, worthless. Your dad's allies take one look at your mom, your 6 siblings, and you, a scrawny 9-year-old, and make a business decision. They abandon you. No food shares, no protection, no tribal support. You're blacklisted. Your family becomes nomadic beggars. You eat roots, rodents, and whatever you can steal. Your mom is trying to keep 7 kids alive on a starvation budget. You learn to fish with your bare hands in freezing rivers. You learn that. Hunger is a better teacher than any mentor, and you learn the first brutal lesson that will define your empire. Loyalty is a lie people tell themselves. Power is the only truth, but even rock bottom has a basement. A rival clan, the Taishia, decides your family is a potential threat. Why? Because you exist. Because one day you might grow up and remember who abandoned you. Paranoia is just long-term strategic planning in this business, so they come for you. They slap a wooden collar around your neck, a kang, the Mongol version of mobile prison. It's a heavy plank that prevents you from feeding yourself, lying down, or escaping. You're paraded around as a trophy, a warning to anyone who thinks about challenging the new order. You're not a person anymore. You're a billboard advertising what happens to losers. You spend months like this, beat, humiliated, starved. But here's the thing about hitting absolute zero. You stop caring about the fall. You stop caring about dignity. You start caring only about one thing, survival by any means necessary. One night during a festival when your captors are drunk off fermented mare's milk, you make your move. You spot a guard who's more interested in his drink than his job. You swing the kang and crack him across the skull. He drops. You run into the darkness, this heavy wooden collar still locked around your neck. You hide in a freezing river, submerged up to your nose, waiting for the search party to pass. They walk right over you. When the sun rises, a slave from the enemy camp finds you shivering in the reeds. He could turn you in. Instead, he breaks your collar and tells you to run. You ask him why he's helping. He shrugs and says, because I've been where you are, and someday you might be somewhere I need to be. You file that away. Debt is leverage. Kindness is an investment. You make it back to your family. You're 14 now. You've been enslaved, beaten, and left for dead. Most kids would be broken, but you're not. Most kids, you're a problem that refuses to die, and you've just learned that the world doesn't give you power. You take it from people too weak to hold on to it. ACT 2, First Blood 3-5 Min, you're 16 when you execute your first hostile takeover. Your half-brother Begter has been skimming from the family's hunting halls. In a normal family, you'd have a conversation, but you're Mongols. Conflict resolution is a blood sport. You and your full brother Kassar ambush Begter near a hillside. He sees you coming. He doesn't run. He just kneels and says, "Don't kill me in front of Mom." You put an arrow through his chest anyway. Why? Because he wasn't asking for mercy. He was negotiating the terms of his execution. And you don't negotiate. Your mom loses it. She screams that you're a rabid dog, a monster, a curse. You don't argue. You just stare at her and think, in a world where everyone is trying to kill you, being a monster is a job requirement, but killing your own blood has consequences. Word spreads. You're now marked as dangerous and untrustworthy. Tribal leaders won't ally with a kinslayer. You're too radioactive, so you pivot. You start recruiting from the bottom: orphans, slaves, exiles, and bastards, people with nothing to lose and everything to prove. Your first real break comes when you rescue Bert. Remember her, the girl from the arranged marriage? You actually went back and married her, not for love, for legitimacy. An alliance with her family gives you political cover, but before you can consummate the union properly, the Merkits, a rival tribe with a grudge against your dead father, raid your camp and kidnap her. They take her as a war prize, planning to marry her off to one of their own as a humiliation tactic. Most men would mourn and move on. You don't mourn, you calculate. Bert's kidnapping isn't just personal, it's a public relations disaster. If you don't get her back, you look weak. And in this business, perception is reality. You ride too. Togrul your father's old blood brother and make a pitch. You remind him of the debt he owes your dead father. You promise him a cut of the loot if he helps you raid the Merkits. He agrees not out of loyalty, but because raiding is profitable. You assemble a warband of 20,000 riders. You hit the Merkits at dawn, no warning, no mercy. You burn their camps, slaughter their warriors, and take their women and children as slaves. You find Bert in a tent, pregnant. You don't ask whose child it is. You don't care. She's your political asset and you're taking her back. The raid is a success. You've just earned your reputation as a man who always collects what's owed. Togrul is impressed. He starts introducing you to other tribal leaders as his protege. Your network is growing, but you're not satisfied with being someone's apprentice. You've tasted power and you want the whole meal. ACT 3, Building the Empire, 512 Min. You're 25 when you make your boldest play, yet you challenge. Established order. The Mongol tribes are fragmented, constantly at war with each other. It's bad for business. Endless blood feuds mean nobody can accumulate wealth or power. It's a race to the bottom. You propose a radical idea, unification through force. You're not trying to make friends, you're trying to build a corporation. And every tribe is either a future subsidiary or a competitor that needs to be liquidated. Your pitch is simple. Join me and you get rich. Oppose me and you get dead. It's the most honest business model in history. You start absorbing smaller tribes. Your recruitment strategy is ruthless and brilliant. When you conquer a tribe, you don't kill everyone. That's wasteful. Instead, you integrate the survivors into your ranks. You promote based on merit, not bloodline. A shepherd who's good at logistics can become a general. A blacksmith who innovates weapon design gets a leadership role. You're building a meritocracy in a world that runs on aristocracy. It's disruptive, it's scalable, and it's terrifying to the old guard. Your former mentor, Togrul, starts getting nervous. You're growing too fast. He's worried you'll outgrow him. So he does what scared leaders always do. He tries to take you out before you take him out. He invites you to a peace banquet. You smell the trap immediately. You've seen this movie before. It's how the Tatars killed your father, so you don't show up. Instead, you send spies who confirm that Togrul was planning to assassinate you during the feast. You don't get angry. You get strategic. You launch a surprise attack on Togrul's camp. You defeat him in 3 days. You offer his people a choice: join your army or join your father in the afterlife. Most choose life. Togrul's empire collapses and his assets become yours. By 1206, you've done the impossible. you've united the Mongol tribes under a single banner. The tribal leaders gather and declare you Genghis Khan, universal ruler. You're 44 years old. Most men your age are thinking about retirement. You're just getting started. You look at your empire, 1 million square kilometers of frozen wasteland, and you realize something. The steps are too small. You've saturated the local market. Time to expand internationally. You set your sights on China, specifically the Jin dynasty, a wealthy, technologically advanced civilization that thinks you're a barbarian joke. They're about to learn a very expensive lesson about underestimating the competition. Your military strategy is revolutionary. Most armies of the era fight for glory, honor, or land. You fight for total ROI. Every battle is a business decision. If a city surrenders, you integrate it. If it resists, you exterminate it and use the survivors as human shields for the next siege. You don't have siege engineers, so you kidnap Chinese engineers and force them to build siege weapons for you. You don't have a navy, so you conscript sailors from coastal cities. You're not reinventing the wheel, you're stealing everyone else's wheels and building a monster truck. Your psychological warfare game is chef's kiss. Before attacking a city, you send a message. Surrender now and you'll live as taxpayers. Resist and we'll kill everyone, pile the skulls into pyramids and salt the earth so nothing ever grows here again. Most cities don't believe you. Once, when the city of Nishapur resists, you make an example. After you conquer it, you order every living thing killed, 7 million people. Then you have your soldiers decapitate the corpses and arrange the skulls by gender, men in one pile, women in another, children in a third. The skull pyramids are visible for miles. It's not cruelty, it's marketing. The next 10 cities you approach surrender immediately. No battle, no casualties on your side, just the threat of becoming a skull decoration. You're not a conqueror, you're a hostile corporate raider with a 100% success rate. By 1220, your empire stretches from Korea to Eastern Europe. You control 20% of the world's landmass. You've got 100 million people under your rule. You've killed an estimated 40 million people, roughly 11% of the global population. If murder was a stock, you'd be the CEO of the Fortune 500. But here's the kicker. You're not doing this for land. You're doing it because you can't stop. Conquest is your addiction. Every victory just raises the bar for the next one. You're chasing a high that no amount of wealth or power can satisfy. ACT4, the price of empire, 1216 min, you're 60 years old. You've conquered more land than any human in history. You have hundreds of wives and concubines. Your offspring will go on to rule empires for generations. By every objective metric, you've won the game, but you can't enjoy it, because at the top of the pyramid, there's no one to trust. Your sons are already circling like sharks, waiting for you to die so they can carve up the empire. Your generals are loyal, for now, but you know that loyalty has a price tag and someone will eventually outbid you. Every meal could be poisoned. Every ally could be a future assassin. Paranoia isn't a disorder when everyone actually is trying to kill you. It's just pattern recognition. You start consolidating power even tighter. You create a law code, the YASA, that's brutally simple. Obey and you prosper. Disobey and you die. There's no appeals process, no mercy, just cold, algorithmic justice. You enforce religious tolerance, not because you're enlightened, but because holy wars are bad for business. Let people worship whatever god they want, as long as they pay taxes and don't rebel. It's pragmatism dressed up as progressivism. You build the Silk Road into a superhighway of trade. Merchants can travel from Europe to China without getting robbed because you've killed all the bandits. International commerce explodes. You're not just a warlord, you're a global logistics CEO. But the cost of maintaining this empire is exhausting. You're constantly putting out fires, a rebellion in the west, a border dispute in the east, a son plotting against a brother. It never ends. You realize the terrible truth. Building an empire is easy. Keeping it is impossible. ACT5, the final ride, 1620 min, it's 1227. You're 65 years old, ancient by Mongol standards. Most men your age died decades ago from battle wounds, infections, or liver failure from drinking too much fermented milk. But you're still writing, still campaigning, still conquering. You're in the middle of crushing the Western Xia kingdom when it happens. You fall from your horse during a hunt. It's not a dramatic battle wound. It's not an assassination. It's just a stupid accident. You hit the ground hard, internal injuries, the kind that don't heal at your age. Your generals beg you to return to the capital, to rest, to let the physicians treat you. You refuse. You've spent your entire life moving forward. Stopping feels like surrender. You give your final orders. From your deathbed, you tell your sons to finish the Western Xia campaign. You tell them to kill every living thing in the kingdom as punishment for making you wait. You tell them to keep the empire unified, knowing full well they'll ignore you and tear it apart the second you're dead. And then you die. Not in battle, not in glory, just an old man whose body finally gave out. Your generals follow your orders. They slaughter the Western Xia. Then they do something extraordinary. They hide your death. They massacre everyone who witnessed your funeral procession, hundreds of people, to keep the location of your tomb secret. To this day, nobody knows where you're buried. The irony is perfect. You conquered 20% of the world, killed 40 million people, and built the largest land empire in human history. But you couldn't conquer death. And the empire you spent your life building, your sons split it into pieces within a generation. You were born Temujin, a nobody slave with a wooden collar around his neck. You died Genghis Khan, the universal ruler whose name still makes people shiver 800 years later. You proved that one man, with enough brutality and strategic vision, can reshape the entire world. But you also proved something darker. No matter how much power you accumulate, the grave is the ultimate equalizer. Your bloodline went on to rule empires. Scientists estimate that 16 million people alive today carry your DNA. You didn't just conquer the world, you literally became part of it. But as you took your last breath in that tent, surrounded by generals and sons who were already calculating how to divide your empire, you probably realized the final truth. You spent your whole life running from that scared kid in the wooden collar. And in the end, he was still there, waiting for you. That's a wrap for today. I've got more deep dives into history's most ruthless power players coming your way. If you want to see how one man's trauma turned into 40 million deaths, and a genetic legacy that's still alive today, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button and stay with me. See you in the next one.